Hi there everybody, Adam Cleary from FourFourTwo here, and Manchester City have won the Champions League. But you already knew that. In the build-up to this, I actually heard one pundit say the only thing Manchester City need to finally win the Champions League is for Pep to not mess with this team, and of course, Pep messed with the team. But my very dear friends, while I've already heard some people saying that these changes nearly cost City their game and that they were bad, I'm here to tell you that actually, no, they were good. In fact, they were better than good. They were f***ing genius. Let's review. Alright, so I've said it like a million times already this season. There's other videos on the channel you can go watch about this specific thing, but while theoretically this is how Manchester City line up, we all know that now that's not true. What happens is that Rodri shifts along to accommodate John Stones stepping into the midfield, and the Man City back four turn into a back three. But this is where Pep Guardiola messed with the team, because he didn't do this. Instead, Stones and Akanji swapped position, so he was actually starting in the right back slot. They went to a diamond in midfield with Gundogan at the head, and when Stones stepped out from the back, he was doing so here on the right-hand side of the diamond as like a proper number 8 central midfielder. They still had pretty much the same back three they always do, and if you know your football history, this is basically Johan Cruyff's old diamond three thing from when he was at Ajax and Barcelona. This is football heritage. And while for a long time during the game this looked like it wasn't really working, they couldn't get the ball in dangerous areas, they were just knocking around at the back, it was actually a really smart thing to do to counteract how Inter play. So this is City as they would normally be with the box in the middle. I'm just going to overlay Inter Milan's formation. Now the reason they do this is because this 4-man box gives you a numerical advantage over any teams that have 3 in the middle, which is the vast majority of teams, but the weird way Inter set up means that this wouldn't work. Between their 2 centre forwards and their 2 centre midfielders, if they're brave enough, they can just go man for man with you in that area, meaning you kind of have to go long from the back into either the wide players, who don't really like doing that, or Haaland if he drops off, but he hasn't really got anybody around him to support. So the thinking behind going to the diamond was that it will then give you a numerical advantage in this area of the pitch instead. It might be a little bit harder to build up from the back, but you've got 3 players who can all find a bit of space and you can hit them with slightly more direct balls. And again, if Haaland then drops back to receive, he's got other players around him so you can make things happen here. And this is such an interesting thing to talk about because it is the right decision and it worked for what Manchester City were trying to do, but they still didn't really create too many chances because Inter just played really, really well. They were really, really brave with how high up the pitch they pressed them. They were really brave in individual tackles, and they won a lot of those singular battles. Just as a really quick example, you can see here John Stones has found himself in way more space than he normally would because he's pushed much further up than he normally would. Edison hits him with a really accurate pass, but the Inter defender, I think it's Bastoni, just goes, nope, I'm going to cut that out. He beats him to the ball and wins that battle. And then halfway through the first half, Pep messed with it again. He swapped around Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, because De Bruyne is a slightly different player in that area. We've seen it a couple of times this season when De Bruyne plays right off Haaland. He's very good in that role because when Haaland creates a bit of space, De Bruyne is not shy about getting into it, basically playing as another centre forward. He's great at receiving the ball in the channels. He can run, he can turn. He does things that Gundogan doesn't normally do, and this, again, was a really smart change. In fact, no sooner did they make this change, they very nearly got De Bruyne in down the right-hand channel, which would have been an amazing chance for them to get, but yet again, Inter Milan just defended it really well. Last-ditch defending is still defending. This would almost certainly have brought Man City a goal at some point. Like, if we look here, Gundogan gets the ball in his new role on the left-hand side. He hits Haaland, who's dropped slightly off the defender. De Bruyne is already anticipating this, makes the run, gets the knockdown, and just forced ever so slightly wide. But City, once they moved to this, was starting to get a lot of joy. Personally, if they'd stayed like this for the whole game, they probably would have won a lot more comfortably. But De Bruyne got injured halfway through the first half. He comes off and is replaced by Phil Foden, who's an incredibly talented footballer and had a good game, but was not doing the same things that De Bruyne was doing in that position. The problem this caused was it meant the only player they were reliably finding in any space in Inter's half was John Stones. Now, John Stones is terrific. He's had an unbelievable season getting converted to this central midfielder, but one thing he's not yet is particularly creative. I'm just going to overlay all his passes from the game. Thank you, Opta, and just notice, one, how many he has, but also how many of them are short or sideways or backwards. There's almost no sort of penetration from him. And that's not a criticism, by the way. I actually think Stones had a really, really good game. I saw an absolutely crazy stat on The Athletic, by the way, that Stones dribbled past 6 opposition players in this game, which is loses the most in a Champions League final since Lionel Messi in 2015. But the problem is he's good at doing stuff like that, and he's good at receiving the ball, and he's good at moving the ball around, but what he's not good at is playing incisive passes and creating chances. So Inter were very happy for him to be the one receiving the ball in space, because it meant that it wasn't going to Foden, it wasn't going to Gundogan, it wasn't going to Silva or Grealish. They were basically allowing the ball to go to him because that was the best option for them. But then in the second half, Pep Guardiola made one key change to this, which finally allowed them to unlock Inter Milan just once, and that was enough to win the game. And that change was the Stones and Gundogan were both getting pushed wider and wider to try and find the ball. He told them to stop doing that and stay as central and as high as they possibly can. And he also got Silva and Grealish to tuck in from the sides. And what this did was it compacted Inter Milan's entire defense, meaning that now if any player drops off the front line, anybody going with them is leaving a space centrally. And as we've seen a million times from Man City this season, if you leave any space centrally, they are all really good and really comfortable at breaking out of their own position to get into it. And that's exactly how the goal came about, because Bernardo Silva drops off ever so slightly back into the middle, which leaves this space here. John Stones recognises this and just goes and plays fully as the right winger for a second. Now this gives Inter a problem, because that's DiMarco's man. He should really be going with him, but he can't ignore Stones, so he's kind of got to come out from that central area, leaving the gap here. Akanji then carries the ball into the final third because DiMarco has to look after Stones. He can't engage him, so Bastoni has to break out of the back three and try and win that ball, leaving the gap for Silva. Now yes, there is some luck involved. It does require a deflection to end up at Rodri's feet, but if we just look here as the cutback comes in, the chaos this has created means that Inter have left this entire area of the box completely unmanned. And I guess the main point I want to make with this is I know that Lukaku should have scored at the end and they had it off the bar, then they hit their own player. Inter fans will rightly feel they've been incredibly unlucky to lose this game, but that's what sort of fundamentally messing with your tactics and understanding your team and knowing the game on this level does for you. You do all the right things and you do them consistently, eventually you'll get a break of the ball. Like for me, this game was the very definition of you can make your own luck. And that's it. That's pretty much the entire video. Like Pep Guardiola gets accused of overthinking these things all the time, but you can't really overthink football at this level. The teams are so good and so well organized, they will constantly give you problems, and the only way you're going to solve them is if you're constantly thinking about them and constantly trying different things, and that's what they did. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, please do subscribe to FourFourTwo here on YouTube. We've got loads of fun stuff planned over football's little summer holidays. If you press the red button there and the little bell next to it, you'll not miss a single one. Until next time though, thank you very much for watching. Congratulations once again to our Manchester City supporting viewers. Drink it in, man. I have been Adam Cleary. This is FourFourTwo, and we'll see you soon. Bye.